Welcome to the Actors Podcast. My name is Douglas Taurel, and on this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of acting, aspiring actors, directors, and seasoned professionals. Each episode will explore personal journeys, acting techniques, and celebrate the artistic process. From theater to film, our guests will share their insights, successes, and the challenges they've encountered on their path as artists. Today, I get to speak with Mel House, a longtime friend, a very talented actress and producer.
So I'm with Mel House, writer and producer of Hot Angry Mom. An old friend I've known for a very long time. We studied in New York with Carl Forsman. I think it was How to Direct. Was it a How to Direct class or was it an acting class?
I think it was an acting class, something at one-on-one where we did some scene study, but then we went and did a private class with him. Yeah.
Yeah, he was good. I missed him when he left, but I don't blame him. He got a great gig. I think he's the head artistic director at North Carolina School of Art. So that's not a bad way to go. Beautiful part of the country. Get to teach acting and get to have all your expenses covered. So that's not a bad way to go.
Exactly.
So listen, tell me, so you wrote this film, which was great. I saw it. It's so impressive. And I don't know who your editor was, but he did a great job. And was that what's it called? The stuff that the animation, thank you. The animation, was that your idea or his idea? Was that in the script?
So actually, our editor is Jessica Alexandra Green, and she edited very closely with our director, Clarissa de los Reyes. And so something that was true about the project is that it is written as a half-hour TV pilot, but I wanted to make it producible and I wanted to be able to distribute it. And my idea at the time, or what I had learned from my research, was that if I made a pilot, it could probably do festivals, but then that would probably be it, because even if someone was interested in the story, they were going to reshoot it. So for me, if we made a web series, that just gave me more options about what to do with it and trying to find and build an audience. And it's also that, what is the phrase? Undersell, over deliver kind of thing. You're like, oh, if it's a web series, I think people's expectations of what they're going to see are a little bit more loosey-goosey. So then they're like, wow, this is really great, this thing you made. However, we were initially supposed to film for 7 days. We had 2 hurricanes, a tornado, and Omicron raging.
Let me stop. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because sorry, I'll edit that out. It said my default microphone changed for some reason, but nothing's changed the way you hear me, right?
Yeah, no, you sound great.
Okay, great. Sorry.
I know the long-winded answer to get to what you're actually asking.
No, sorry, I didn't want to us being mute and you go through that whole answer. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's great. So yeah, basically we dealt with weather challenges and world pandemic challenges, which just meant that we didn't get all the footage.
You shot it in 2020?
2021.
Wow.
But the bullet point answer actually to what you were asking is we didn't quite get all the footage that we wanted. Some of the establishing shots, some of the other juicy things. So when we looked at the footage we had, something that was true is it had a really punk, do-it-yourself, even slightly 90s aesthetic, right? From the costume I put together and just the way, maybe also just because the director and I are both like 90s, both born in the 70s, but coming of age in the 90s. And so I think we both had an aesthetic that was like that, and we were seeing it in the footage. So we really thought, let's lean into the do-it-yourself punk vibe. And Clarissa, the director, was like, what if we used animation to help bridge things?
It was such a smart choice because it just breaks up the film, and I've always believed in that with especially indie projects, you have to find a way to keep the audience on edge and surprised, because you're watching a short, you're watching an indie film project, and it's easy to get ahead of the film as an audience member, right? Because there's a feel to it, what's going on. First of all, you only have 30 minutes or 15 minutes when you're watching it, so you can pretty much get to the end of it. So having things that kind of bust out and burst out, and you're like, oh, that's cool. What's coming next? It was just really smart. And I can definitely, I'm sure you heard this, but what was the Weed web series? It was all about selling weed.
Yeah. High maintenance.
You can put her on a journey. You can put that actress on all kinds of journeys. You can make each season or episode over the week or the day or what she's going through. Funny casting sessions. It was really, I immediately thought it's just done really well, smart. And also the sound editing on whenever the whooshes coming in. It was just really well cut. And did you get a good editor, or was it lucky? Because sometimes getting a good editor it could be luck, or it could be challenging. Finding them, they could be expensive.
I'd say both and. Jess is an amazing editor. She's also a filmmaker and a director herself. She's an actress.
How'd you find it?
So she was a referral from friends. Actually, Karis Vucek.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I
Wow.
think she
Small world.
used her for her series. And I have a number of friends. So we were in the same circle of humans, but didn't really know each other. But I would also say, so something that happened was we actually worked with a different editor first who made a rough assemblage of all of the footage, although Jess never watched that footage. Um, and so Clarissa and I had actually gone through and seen everything that we had to work with and had a bunch of ideas when we came and partnered with Jess.
Mhm.
We were in post for 9 months. And so I would very much say it was a collaboration of the three of us because we watched all the footage and we'd be like, isn't there something like this? And can we go back here? And can we add this here? And I keep giving so much of the credit for it because Clarissa directed it, but she didn't just step in and direct on set. She invested 100% like this was her baby. It's our baby that we
Yeah.
made together. It is my face. I wrote the story, but wanted to hire a director and not try to do it myself because I was also acting in it. And I wanted somebody who was an expert. And she went to NYU grad for filmmaking, which is how we met. I did her student film 15 years ago. She's also a mom in a multiracial family.
Man,
And
you remember those days auditioning for student film?
oh my goodness, yes. And
I think about them all the time sometimes.
the weird, strange things that people ask you to do and maybe that you do.
I mean, do you remember when we would audition? You used to go to NYU and they had this green room that you would have to sit before they called you in, and you either auditioned for undergrad or grad, and it was a horrible green. Remember, it was like a freaking just a lime green. It felt like it was a weird room. Like you were like you
Mental
almost
health.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it felt like you were intruding on the students there. People were walking in. They had a microwave. I remember they had a microwave. People would come in and do their lunch in there, and people would look at you and then say, you waiting to audition?" Because yeah, I'm waiting to audition. And they're like, okay. It's just a weird thing.
Yeah.
What gave you the idea for the film besides being a mom, which I can
Uh,
relate to as a dad?
Yeah, I think I was getting close to turning 40. I was doing a play off Broadway. It was actually a collection of great plays by Marita Bonner and Susan Glaspell, and this should have been important work about race and class and gender. But also, the theater was freezing, and I'm earning less than minimum wage, and the world is a trash fire. The Weinstein scandal had exploded. We elected a president who grabbing women by the genitals. There were just so many things personally on the edge of what is going on with my life.
You started writing this one in 2016 or 2017, something like that.
The seed was planted right around then because I was so in the beginning of episode 2, you got that butt shot. We got a little butt jiggle. So that's a vocal warm up exercise from Fitzmaurice voice work. It's sometimes referred to as the wave. It looks like plow in yoga, but you're opening up breath, right? And you're vocalizing, and it looks ridiculous. And so I use it as a joke in the series, but also I was really doing this before the show, right? I'm warming up before the show. And just all the things that I'm carrying around in my body are making me laugh and they're making me cry. And the stage manager for the show came in. She's like, "Mel, I need to talk to you." She's like, "My sister plugged her phone into my computer and there's all these nudie photos and I don't know what to do. And you're a mom, right? So talk to me. What would you do?" And I start telling a story about the first time we found porn on my son's phone and realizing,
How how old was your son?
11, sixth grade. And I was like, no. So what it turned into is I'm telling this story and then other people in the show who were working on the show backstage, on stage, we all were gathering and I'm just storytelling essentially.
Yeah.
And we're laughing and we're crying. And I realized I had this whole part of my life that's so interesting to other people. And I realized, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but the industry wants you to have a niche. This is what you do. This is who you are, even though you're a plethora of things and we're actors. But for marketing,
Rainbow.
what do you bring? What is your value? And I had that moment where I was like, I'm an angry mom. And so I actually started, ideas started planting on that day. And then I started doing stand up around New York City as Hot Angry.
Did you really? Oh, brave you, man. I do a solo show, but I feel like stand up. People say solo, because solo show you're still hiding behind the scripted words, and man, I could never do stand up. I don't think. I
And
just
that a little bit with stand up
never fun.
too. you write your set, you can memorize it, you can have a really strong structure. You still have to deal with the real people in front of you and being able to riff or something, but you do it naturally in conversation anyway. So it's a matter of practice.
Yeah.
It's terrifying, but I wanted to fail forward, which is why I was
No, it's
like,
good. And what I loved about the film, that people who don't know the film, um, it's just about, besides being a mom and all the challenges you have being a mom and being an actress in New York City and living in New York City, it's just the audition process. And some days the audition process is really easy, and I can relate to it as an actor and been doing the business for a long time in New York. Is some days the audition process is brutal, is absolutely brutal. Some days you're just like, nothing. Is someone, does someone have a voodoo doll? Is someone fucking with me right now? It's just, sometimes it's just, you get to the audition and you're just like, oh my God, I got here. So many things get in the way. Your family gets in the way. Your transportation gets in the way. The subway doesn't work. It's just, it's hot. That's the other thing people don't realize about New York in the summer when you're auditioning. Not so much now when the world was open before COVID. You had to take two sets of clothes sometimes because if it was hot and you was down on that platform, you literally melt. Sometimes I would forget not having a towel because I'm a big sweater, and I was, I don't know, in an oven or something. I just melt. I just start sweating. So I really appreciated that about the film. Which I was going to tell you about the Johnny Walker story, is that I had an audition for Johnny Walker, and it just reminded me so much. And they had called me in. I was going to be like this commercial spokesman for them, and it was going to be a great gig. They were going to pay really well. They had called me back from like a self tape, and they were going to fly me to Scotland. I was going to taste all these different whiskeys and different distilleries around Scotland. So I was really excited, and this was the worst auditions because you're like, oh, I'm already counting the money before I even,
no, it's bad when you start projecting the future you'll have if you get the job before you've gone in. No, it's always a mistake.
always a mistake. And it was hot. It was a hot summer, and I had to wear a suit. They wanted me in a black tie, and like a dumbass, I got dressed completely out of the house in the black tie. And then I realized, and then the subway wasn't working, and it was hot, and I was melting. It was literally melting. And then I was getting late, and then I got on the wrong, I forgot what line it was. I think I got on the B, and it was the express line, and I had to get off on like 86th Street, and I passed right through it. And like, oh, and so I had to run back. Then I had to run. You run up, you run back down, and I had to get back down, go back down, and then do local, and which is going now. I'm at like at 140th, taking local all the way down, and I get there. I can't remember which they were on. They were at the Pierre Hotel, which is a really fancy hotel. And I couldn't remember where they were at in the Pierre Hotel. Anyhow, and I was trying to memorize my lines because you had a script, kind of a script. And I remember I just walked in this like conference room, and they were all sitting there, and I looked like disaster. I looked like my tie was turned sideways. I was nervous. I was sweating. I couldn't stop sweating too. It was like hot. It was just like nothing would stop. And then I came in, and I remember I just completely bombed it. And I was like, all right, thanks guys. I just walked out like that fucking sucked. Wow.
I had a really funny audition last fall. Luckily, I had a real sense of humor about it, but I was auditioning for theater for the play What the Constitution Means to Me, which, as you might know, is almost like a 2-hour monologue. Like it's
Yeah.
just text. And so for the audition, they gave you a ton of text, and then the callback was the next day, and they gave you fresh text to learn. And for my callback, it's a part of the script where she's actually reading from index cards. So I put the story on index cards, and I work to memorize and get off book, whatever you can embody within 24 hours. But I put the index cards in my back pocket. And then I was like getting ready because sometimes I give myself this little gift if it's a role I really care about and really want to book. And I book another space wherever the audition is and give myself a half an hour to like warm up, settle, sing, play, whatever is going to have me be grounded before I walk into the room. And I went to the bathroom, and I forgot to take the cards out of my pocket,
Oh shit.
fell into the toilet.
Oh
I had
man.
to dish them out, and
Did-
the toilet actually swallowed the final card. So I'm in there, and it wasn't a dirty toilet situation when it
Oh
fell in.
God.
Caught it beforehand. But so then they still had toilet water on them. So I'm like trying to dry them in the air dryer. The last one is gone, right? The toilet's already sucked that one away. I
How
yeah.
did you do the audition?
I did I murdered it. They
Uh,
didn't cast me, but they sent the best letter to my agent and invited me direct to callbacks for their next show. They just hadn't casting is a million different things, so it's not
yeah.
personal. But I do want to report that the second time I auditioned for the show at a different theater, I booked it. So I'm actually starting rehearsals for that play next week. Is the
Oh yeah, where at? That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. It was the rainbow at the end of the toilet story at Syracuse stage.
Oh wow, that's exciting, man. That's a beautiful space too.
Yeah, I haven't worked there before, but I'm, yeah, super excited to have a job right now in the industry. That's such a gift.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm very blessed too with the play that I get to travel around the country with. It doesn't. I haven't been able to. I haven't skipped a beat. So knock on wood on that. It is definitely a blessing to still be able to do your craft when most of our world is shut down. But in different now. So, what was your overall budget, and how did you raise money for your film?
Sure. So I crowdfunded.
You did
Uh,
crowd.
yeah, and we raised $35,000 through crowdfunding.
Wow, wow. And how long did it take you to raise it on crowdfund?
So it was 2 months of labor before we actually launched the campaign.
Pretty
And
intense. People don't understand that, right?
people think it's just putting up the page and that people will just give you money, but I
it's a full,
actually,
it's a full production.
yeah, I built a team. I wrote 1,001 personal emails to people that were to go out the morning that I launched. And I researched what everyone was doing. So I was looking them up on Facebook. And if I sent you, and I'm sure I sent you a message, I'd be like,
Yeah,
congratulations, what are you doing? It's good to see this. Like, so that they were genuinely
yeah. I gave. Yep.
Mhm. And yeah, it took 2 months to prepare, and you're shooting the video and you're creating the content. But something that's so valuable about the crowdfunding beyond the raising of the money is awareness, is you're letting people know what you want to do. You're building an audience for the content that you're creating. You're already beginning an online presence. So of course, we created a Facebook page and an Instagram account, and we started doing the social media before we got to the campaign. And then the campaign actually ran for 30 days on Seed and Spark. We hit our goal on what should have been the last day of the campaign, but they actually let us extend to Friday. So I don't know, maybe we got an extra 48 hours and then we went over. Our goal was 30,000. We officially have 33 on Seed and Spark, but we had another private person who wanted to be an associate producer and gave another chunk of money
What do you think?
on the Seed and Spark page.
What was your biggest success raising? Was there any one thing or any one strategy or?
Oh, okay. That's what you mean. I'll say two things. One thing, I'll just say I was terrified to ask for help and to ask for support. It was scary for me to write the story in the first place, to have the audacity to feel like I was allowed to do this, because it is a story inspired by my real family and my real life. I didn't really have the viral video. That part is fictional. But so asking for support for this thing that means so much to me was terrifying. And that's a spiritual journey, to turn around and allow people to support you.
Yeah.
And then to go, oh, you're not alone. You don't have to fight the world all by yourself. There's a lot of people that love you, want to support you, want you to be successful.
No, it's quite amazing when you ask for help, the power you get back from friends and family and people.
Yeah, because people want to. They want to participate. They want to be part of the creation process. But then strategy wise, I actually hired a crowdfunding coach. Her name is
Wow.
Melissa. Yeah.
Smart,
So we
smart.
had weekly strategy, right? Like, you have a big buzz when you launch. So not only did I send 1,001 personal emails, we also launched a MailChimp campaign, right? So then people could see the beautiful page and all the images and see that we'd already built an incredible team. Like, we had so many people. It was the pandemic and we were trying to put people back to work, and we were
That's
raising
crazy
like,
you did that, man. I remember when I finished Landing Home was right before the pandemic. And I remember I was in production during the pandemic. I was in post in pandemic, and I was just so grateful that I was not in production. And I know people who did shoot, and I was like, geez, man, kudos to you guys. Cause man, that was insane. That was crazy time to shoot anything.
yeah, it was really difficult because we all were uncertain about the realities of health and safety. And so we had an abundance of caution, but there was still a lot of fear. So we tested every 72 hours. Everyone had to have the PCR tests. We wore masks, we had shields, we had booties, we did the temperature check, we had daily reports every day with checking in. But still, it was scary, and we had questions. Are we doing it right? Are we following everything that we need to? Because a challenge that I was having is, for actors, we need to breathe. Breath is voice power. Breath is presence. And I do some things in the shooting that's really difficult. And so I needed some time where I could take my mask off and breathe and really ground, because when you're on camera, you have to take the mask off anyway. But we
Yeah.
were arguing, is that ethical? Is it ethical for you to walk around set without a mask on for some of the time? Is it ethical for you to warm up when you're and like, how far do you stay from the crew? And you're like, how do you handle that? Because also I have to breathe to do the performance. So if we're going to shoot this, it needs to be good and I need to fucking breathe. So what makes sense? And everybody doesn't have the same idea of safety. And to some extent, safety is an illusion. So it's like, how do you create a consistent container so that everyone feels safe, but you're also figuring out what your protocols were? And it was not easy. We definitely had some challenges because after our first day of shooting, one of our crew members tested positive with COVID. They got it somewhere else. We weren't actually exposed to it, but we didn't know. And so then there was like do we shoot again or do we not shoot again? Are we going
Yeah.
to shoot scheduled it or do we need to change things? So that,
But that was to be my next question, but I think that you just basically answered it. COVID was your biggest challenge. I was going to say, well, what was the biggest challenge? But it would have to be COVID, right? I mean, shooting through
absolutely
COVID.
COVID. It was
Yeah.
absolutely COVID. And we also had 2 hurricanes happen during the period we scheduled to shoot. So we canceled one day of shooting. But the challenge of that was that we'd rented an Airbnb and it was fully dressed. So we had to completely strike the Airbnb, rebook our crew. And in some cases, everybody wasn't available. So then
Yeah.
I'd have to hire new crew, which I don't know if people realize how difficult it is to crew up. You have all these people that you have to find. They have to agree to the rate that you've managed to negotiate with people, usually because you're shooting for a longer period of time with them. You have to do all of the contracts. You have to pay all the salaries. I did all of those jobs. I line produced it. I had support.
Did you AD?
I did not, because I was acting in every scene. We had Sandy Shen was our first AD for most of the shoot, and she's awesome.
She the Asian, is she the Asian actress in the film?
No, she's not an actress. Yeah, she came on as a recommendation from Niav, who was our director of photography. I think she had been one of Niav's students, maybe, and it's just a person who has her stuff together. And we've actually collaborated on some other projects, and she's just out there producing. She's producing now, so one thing after another.
Yeah, I mean, people who, when I did Landing Home, there's definitely, it's not something I want to go. That's not the path that I'm interested in, but there are people who are interested in producing, and that's what they do. They produce and they produce and they go from your project to the next project. And sometimes they're executive producer in your short film, and then they're like line producer on some major project, and they're all over the place. And it's really interesting watching their career path, which is similar to ours as actors and actresses, but it's a little bit different, right? Because they're working all the time, right? And they'll do smaller production roles on bigger films, and then they'll take on bigger production roles on smaller projects to get the experience. And it's really interesting. And that scheduling is the biggest lesson I took away from doing my film is I had lost my AD midway through pre-production, and I had to get a different AD, and he wasn't up to par. And man, I always say, get a good AD because they'll save your butt. And luckily I had a good team, but it's just like the scheduling, getting the actor there at the right day at the right time. I'm not having him. No, he's not. They're not, dude. They're not. We're not shooting today with him or her. We're shooting tomorrow with him and her. Yeah, it was a disaster, but those are the things you learn. It's such even as an actor, as we've both been as actors on big sets and film and TV, and we've done creating stuff, but the learning curve is never ending, right? You think you have enough information to take you through this. It's just a short film. It's just a web series. But they're like full productions. They're like massive, huge endeavors. And you're like, fuck, I didn't see that. I should have saw that. I should have known better than that.
Yeah.
Damn it. But it's never ending. And every part of the production, there's always a learning curve that you can't see around the corner. And I think what I came away after doing my project is the learning curve is understanding that there is no learning curve and that you have to be agile and be able to be able to audible on a
pivot, because and I think it's trying to have, this is so tricky. So there will be things that will happen that will be terrifying because it feels like everything is going to be over. It's all falling apart. At least for me, I had many moments where I felt like that was happening.
But you feel like the anxiety is so intense in those moments that you feel like what have I done to myself? Why did I do this? I didn't need to do this stupid idea.
Yeah, I had emotional moments where it was just so much. And then there was a time in producing where there wasn't space for that, where all I could do was just solve challenges and keep things going. And when I rose to that place and did it, I was like, oh, wow. What if I didn't have these huge emotional reactions? What if I just noticed that there's an issue, something's happening, and I have to figure out how to solve it? And I trust that everything's going to work out okay. And then just apply my creative solutions. Wouldn't that be easy? Wouldn't that be better? But then I realized, you know what that takes out of it is the humanity. You're a human and things are going to be scary and surprising. You're going to have to, I had moments where I questioned the decisions that I was making and then would have to go into my gut because I'm a people pleaser. So I want everyone around me to be happy. And I was such a mama on that set that I took better care of everyone else than I did of myself. And that if I could go back and do anything differently, I would say no more quickly. I would fire certain people immediately. The minute I'm getting red flags, I'm like, nope, you're out. I'm not negotiating with you. And I think it's knowing, oh, this is my project and this is how it needs to get done and trusting yourself. It's a journey and you got to find the right people, people that share your work ethic, that care the way that you care about the art that they create. Because there are definitely work for hire people that are like, I'm just here to get a check. I don't care about what we're making. I want to get in and out as quickly as possible. I can't work with people like that. No, that's fine. I get it. It's fine. We all need to make money and I respect that.
Yeah.
But
No,
I'm here to make people that make art.
Yeah, no, you have to. I always, and I learned this, and I think I did a pretty good job to a degree with this. You have to. One of the things that advice someone gave me is that you have to interview everybody you bring onto your set, everybody, and everybody's critical because their chemistry that you bring onto your set could completely just throw the whole ship sideways. Right? It's like bringing the wrong person to your family Thanksgiving dinner. And you have to make sure that they're not going to eat. They're going to eat with their hands. They're not going to sneeze without covering their mouth. And if you bring on a person and you don't ever know that, because a lot of times people will say, oh, Joey's great, man. He'll be a great AD. He's a great line producer. And you don't meet Joey and, oh, he's a great grit. He's a great first AD. Oh yeah, he works all the time. But you don't meet him and you just hire him. And then he comes on set and he's got his tendencies, maybe he's an asshole. Maybe he's a jerk. Maybe he's rude, but he's really good at it. But you're like, doesn't mix with what I'm doing right now. And you're stressing me out. And now there's stress in the whole production of the whole thing. And the whole thing now is it just ruins the chemistry. And when that happens, I always say, you just got to cut bait. If that happens, you just say, hey man, I appreciate you. It's not working out. Let's stay in touch. I'll keep you in my file and you move on because if you try to grind through it, you're just going to ruin your production.
Yeah, I 1000% agree. And I think sometimes you can't even know because I interviewed everyone and or personally knew everyone. But sometimes when you're on set, there's a stress level and you don't know how someone will behave under those stress levels until they're under them. And I think sometimes, and I'm a little cautious now with hiring younger people, which I don't know, some of the best people on our team were in their 20s. So I don't want to say it's a blanket rule, but I just think it's important to realize who are you empowering and to do what, and think about what you need and really have conversations with people that are transparent. And then the minute things are like, my new rule is like, first red flag with someone, talk to them, see if you can sort it out. Because we all make mistakes. Mistakes are fine. That's not what I mean by a red flag.
No,
There's a
no,
difference between somebody making a mistake and being like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, let me fix it. And somebody they're not accountable and they're making things worse for other people. And
someone who's high on set, you're like,
yeah,
why are you high on set, dude? Can you not get high after we wrap? Don't get high on set. Just don't get high on set.
I never had anyone get high on our set. But then for me now, it's okay. Second red flag, you just have to fire the person. And I definitely was very community minded in the way that we approached building the family, bringing everyone together. But I think for me, I'm a person who's working on learning boundaries for myself. And so I think I just kept giving away power, if you will, and trying to serve everyone. But at the end of the day, it was my project and I needed to take charge in ways that maybe I wish I had done earlier. I mean, my director was fantastic. So she ran the set really well, but we had 70 people on the project, like 70 people employed from the beginning to the end. It wasn't 70 people on set at once.
You could say, wow.
Yeah, but it was just a lot of people to be managing. So of course there's a lot of personalities and there's a lot of need. And I think it is
The hardest, it's the hardest thing about our business because we're all, in many ways, we're very similar as artists. We have the same kind of emotional sensibilities. That's why we're drawn into art. But sometimes that you get a lot of those of us together in a small area and working together on a one simple task. It can be challenging. It'd be like, and some are more emotional than others. And you're like, okay, let's talk about that. And because your instinct is, no, Doug, I don't want to do it that way, man. No, I don't want to do it that way. But you have to, okay. Or no, well, what do you think? But then there are, like you said, there's moments when you just have to just drop the hand. Look, no, this is the way I want it. This is the shot I want. This is the angle I want. And you know what? It's my fucking film, man. I'm going to shoot it this way. I'm going to shoot it this way. So,
although I just do want to actually shout out the Hot Angry Mom cast, because to a T, every single human that acted in the series was delightful. We only had one Zoom rehearsal for each scene in the series, except for the audition scene, which had some fight and physical choreography things. And we worked with an intimacy coordinator and got some fight choreography for that bit. So that was in person. We had one physical in-person rehearsal and we had some Zoom rehearsals. But I just want to the actors were actually the joy of it all. They were on time. They were prepared. They were flexible. In some cases, they wardrobed themselves up with bits and pieces.
yeah, I had the same experience. Actors are amazing. Actors give us a chance to perform, and you ask for 10, they give you 30. They always do. Did you do a lot of pre-production? And what stage did you find, I guess, challenging? Pre-production or post?
We finished the crowdfunding. We launched the campaign, I think it was like May 11th, and then 30 days later we finished. So I guess we hoped we would have the funds to go into production, but we didn't really know until we knew. And I also had applied for Panavision's new filmmaker grant, which we got, which meant they gave us the Arri Alexa Mini, not gave it to us, but we were given the gift of the equipment,
Wow.
with the cameras and the lenses, anything we wanted during our shoot. And I actually credit the crowdfunding for part of that, because we had 500 backers on Seed and Spark. We had social proof that people were excited. We had already made things that, that showed promise or whatever, made our application stronger. But we had, so from June, and then our first day of shooting was towards the end of August. And I had already loosely had some locations, but I was the scout, so I locked all of our locations. I had to hire all the crew. Obviously, I had recommendations with other people. I built the rehearsal schedule, but then Clarissa, who's the director, we met with everyone and rehearsed together. So I was in every rehearsal because I was in every scene. And so almost every scene. And so I was managing all of that. I'd say it was tricky because I'd never done it before, so I didn't really understand how all the different department heads would ideally work and how you would ideally structure your team, about how communication flows would ideally go. But I had one department that was just a little outsized in its self-importance, is how I'm going to nicely say that. And it's not that it wasn't important. It was, but for the budget and the things that we were doing, there was one department that was just making things a little bit unbalanced, and that caused an issue. And I didn't have enough experience as the producer and person running it to understand how to navigate that challenge. The production itself, I thought I was going to die like multiple times, physically, mentally.
Because of COVID.
Because I would get up at 4 a.m. and warm up and do my own hair and makeup and drive a truck with $1 million worth of equipment to set, stop and pick up breakfast, help unload, get dressed in a corset while getting mic'd up, doing my blocking, act for 12 hours a day with a 20-minute break for lunch, and then reload all the stuff and drive it home. And then constantly was parenting the 20 or 30 people who came to me with every stupid complaint and every thing that they just didn't realize, like how much I was managing with other people and just centering themselves and their needs in a way, not that it wasn't important. It was just
not relevant at the moment.
Yeah,
when you produce something like what you just did, you start to understand producers in a complete different light, right? Because you're like,
why I have to say no, and why they understand, like, you don't have the budget. You don't have the ability to do this. This is creative and awesome, but no.
Yeah. And also, I don't care about your lines right now. Right now, I just need someone to say their lines. I'll get them to perform. I'm worried about losing location right now. That's all I care about. I don't care about you. And now you understand when we do film and TV, we know this now because we're experienced. But when you're young, you're like, you go through theater, you go through when you graduate college and you're in class when you're young, you're like, you think you're going to get on the TV set, you're going to get directed. But you don't get directed because they're doing that. They're like, okay, we have X amount of time with this lead actor. We have X amount of time on this location. We're losing sunlight. Okay. You're just like, they're going through so many things. They're like, hey, Doug, say your line. Please get the fuck out of here. I got, and that's why they flip it. They shoot your scene, flip it, boom. Are we good? We wrapped? Check the can. Okay. Next scene.
Well, I do want to shout out, I had an experience that was not that at the beginning of this year. That was super dope. Director was Ludovic Liddy, who works on FBI. And maybe because he was a cinematographer, he was their DP for years for that world. And so he was directing an episode, but he actually, we like rewrote a scene. I got to set and he's like, I don't like these words. What are we going to do? And I was like, oh, terrified. I'm like, it's my first day on set. You're going to throw some stuff at me? Don't I have to repeat it and hit everything just when you're going to ask me to make it up and remember it in the stress of 60 people? It was like 60 people are there on this morning of my first shoot out in the woods. And I was like, oh gosh. But luckily I got to work with them for multiple days. But he would do cool things, be like, this time maybe repeat this part, or here, take this and what if you walk over here? And so he kept me off center in the best possible way.
That's a great experience.
Yeah. And I was just, so yeah, I was like, oh, and he was like, what do you want to do? What do you think? What do you feel? And I was like,
Did you ask me?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that was a really,
they happen. They do happen. I know.
but they're rare. Yes. They
They're
are
rare.
not a typical job.
I've had a couple special moments. They are less than more. What was so production was, I had a question I was going to ask.
Well, you had actually asked me before, what was harder, pre or?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Production is when I thought I was physically going to die multiple times and had mental, like you fall down crying. Because I had days where the crew's like, I'm not coming tomorrow because they weren't sure about the safety protocol for things. And we would have to be like hours of negotiating and clarifying and doing things. So my face would be swollen and I hadn't slept. And then I'd have to go act on camera for 12 hours. And so those kind of things were really challenging to navigate.
Their anxiety, so much anxiety when you go, when you self-produce a little show project.
But what I will actually say, credit-wise, is after the first couple of days, the crew really gelled. And I think when people saw, oh, this woman isn't asking us to do something, she's killing herself to make it better for me. So I think people actually really respected how hard they saw that I was working, because I was there before them, I was there after them. I was doing everything that I could. And producers get a bad rap in some ways because people are like, oh, you're making all the money. But no producers made any money on this project. I never paid myself, which is not ideal to admit. But the reason I never paid myself, even though we had $60,000 in total, when we think about post and all the grants and things that I got,
the money just flies away.
I was like, if I pay myself, I have to pay taxes on it. And then we're going to use my credit card to pay for something I need to pay for this production anyway. So I was like, it doesn't even make sense. So I have yet to pay myself in actual income. But I guess that gave me the moral leg on some level with when people would haggle and I'm like, this is the most that I can afford to pay you because I'm trying to split the pie and I'm not asking anyone else. Maybe 2 or 3 people also volunteered for the project, but I paid every actor on the set. Everybody's like, you don't have to pay your actors. And I was like, no, if you're getting paid, our actors are getting paid.
Yeah, no, I did the same thing.
It's a stipend. Gratuity.
Yeah, it's not much money, but it makes them feel like they're not working for free, and it changes their commitment to the project. It changes the caliber of the project. It does change the caliber of the project. Not to say that getting everybody to work for free, and if you have a bunch of friends, it can't work out. But if you can give them, I paid my lead actress, I paid everybody, all the major actors. I didn't pay the extra, but I paid all the transportation. I paid for food, and what the other thing I did, it sounds like you did the exact same thing. So I got. My part of my pre-production was I talked to independent film directors that I had worked with who I respected and asked them their do's and their don'ts. And one guy said, hey man, no matter what you do, just make sure you take care of your crew. Take care of your crew, say hi, good morning, say even hi to the prop master, say, hey, good night, everybody. Thanks. That was a great show. And when you're freaking out, don't let them see you freak out. Because if they see you freak out, then they're not going to trust you when there is a freak out. And it was the best advice. And when we had trouble with our AD, I bought beer every night. We shot in Jersey City, and I bought beer every night for our crew. And after we shot, said, beer's in the fridge. It was mostly guys. There was a couple of times we had more girls. It was a veteran themed project, so it was a lot of guys. But when our AD was going sideways, my DP said, look, and he was telling me all the issues we were having with the AD. He says, the only reason everybody hasn't walked off this project is because the way you've been taking care of them. He says, they're all committed to you and they're all committed to the project. But we do have to figure out this AD situation. But that advice was so, because when you're self-producing a project, an indie project, you get overwhelmed. People don't understand how much you have going on besides your life, right? That is still functioning, right? And then you have all these other things that you're responsible for that sometimes forgetting to say hello. It's not because you're rude. It's because you're just like, okay, we lost location. Okay. Who's not showing up? Okay. But forcing yourself to say, hey, Mel, good morning, man. How's your day? Looking forward to working today. Hey, thanks, Bill. It just keeps the chemistry of the set going. And it was really good advice. And it saved me. It was a really positive thing. And it sounds like you did the exact same thing.
I would also quote somebody, his name is Hilliard Guess. He has a podcast called The Rant Room. I met him at Dances with Films because I went to a live taping of his podcast. And that was one of the film festivals Hot Angry Mom played in. But I was talking to him at one of the after party things. And the advice he gave me was similar to what you're saying. But this was actually before you even get on set. So when you're hiring your actors and you're hiring key crew members, to talk to them and go, what is it that you need on set? What brings you joy? What brings you comfort? So for actors, if it's like green M&Ms, or if there's a thing, I'm a diet Sprite person, or whatever it is for people. I'm actually not, but whatever it is, having a little conversation where you as a producer really lock in, and before things get stressful, listen to that person, ask them what they like, ask them what they need, invest in them. And then $5, $10, whatever you're spending on them to give them some type of treat, some type of acknowledgement, is like a deposit in the emotional bank account. So when things inevitably go awry, because they do it every level, it's not about professionalism. We were wildly professional. We're incredibly well organized.
Yeah, but you're a professional, so you know how to be. You have etiquette. You're not like a painter who's starting to shoot a film.
But stuff's going to happen no matter how well organized, no matter how well prepared you are. Somebody's going to get sick. Somebody's going to quit. They get a better offer for something. Somebody's going to be like some location, something bananas is going to happen that you have no control over. Your equipment's going to fail one day for no good reason, even though it was tested and expensive and great. And so just things happen. And if you lay the groundwork with people before you're on set and before it's stressful, then when it does get stressful, they're already giving you a little bit of grace.
Yeah, and that was important. Let me ask you, we shot it in Alexa as well. That was the question I was going to ask you. And it's a beautiful camera. It looks great. It's like it's like working in the space shuttle, man. I was really intimidated because I know how to act and I know what I wanted to see. But I remember before I got into production, I was so intimidated by the technical part of it, right? But I use a camera. I don't know what to use this camera. What lens do I use? I had a great DP. He's actually working now in Bali, India, but he was so good. He was like, look, dude, just let me do the technical stuff. You just worry about the acting, the directing. I'll tell you which lens to use. I'll tell you, you don't need to worry about the camera. I'll tell you if it looks good, if it doesn't look good. I'll give you suggestions. Let me do it. And that was a great lesson for me, that I was responsible for all the positions, but I wasn't responsible for all the positions. You know what I'm saying? Like a DP, the deep
experts and people that are talented in their field, and you need to be able to trust them and collaborate with them.
But taking that now with the new iPhone, I thought about, we had a pretty expensive budget as well. And I was like, would you shoot on an iPhone? What the iPhone can do now? Sometimes I thought, because now you think about Hot Angry Mom, most of the people besides film festivals are going to be watching it on their desktop, laptop, iPhone, even TVs are pretty much on these platforms. I talked to a guy he worked commercial all the time and he shot on Reds. And he was like, I don't even know why we shoot on Reds, because 90% of the time, this is going straight to YouTube. Yeah. Like commercials are going straight to YouTube. So I'm just wondering, would you shoot on an iPhone? You try it?
Yeah, I think we actually talked about something like that and shooting in vertical landscape and things like that, just because we're like, what is our end user? What are we doing with this content?
Right.
And I think I wanted the credit that you get when you shoot on beautiful film and make a beautiful project. Part of me is just the storyteller that's, oh, just follow the acting and the writing and that's enough. But that's why I hired a director who's a filmmaker, cinematographer, who's no, we are leaning into the art and craft of filmmaking, the visual storytelling, the beautiful framing and execution. And so I think we were a really cool pair of what we prioritize and how we navigated and negotiated that. And I know your answer is, would you film on it? Maybe.
Have you seen some of the stuff out there that is being done on an iPhone?
Yeah,
It is,
yeah.
it's a mind blowing right now. It is really, you're like, and I do a lot of editing. I know I'm pretty proficient in Final Cut. That was the one thing I took away from my project that after I shot it, I hired my editor. I had two editors and I told my editor, you're going to teach me Final Cut. I want to learn how to do Final Cut. And so that was one of the things I took away from landing home. But the stuff you can do on an iPhone in Final Cut, it's insane. It's insane. And have you seen Tangerine?
I haven't, no, but I'm aware of it.
It was shot all on iPhone. The whole thing was shot on iPhone. It went to Sundance. It got all kinds of awards. It got massive global distribution. It was out of necessity to why he shot it on an iPhone. And he had work. There's more story to this guy because there's some great YouTubes. You can look it up. He has experience with phones. It wasn't like a dude who just pulled out his phone and shot it. But there's people I watch on YouTube. I follow. There's a guy named Brian Castillo. He's an independent filmmaker. There's a guy, Yang Pao. He's an Asian filmmaker. And all they do is use iPhone. And I'm telling you, it is like mind blowing. And sometimes I wonder, I could save a lot of money shooting on iPhone. You would get hard drives to download your footage off of there. And you would do it on multiple iPhones. So you can do multiple angles. But anyway, it's just, I like asking filmmakers that because I just wonder, the technology is getting so good now. Obviously that's part of what's going on with the actor strike right now, because the technology has just gotten light speeds. And I don't know if you have the new iPhone, but when you shoot on cinematic on the iPhone, it's crazy what it looks like. It's crazy how well it looks like, especially when you go from 2K to 4K and change the resolution to 24 frames per second. And you're just like, wow, this is film. This is film.
Yeah. Something we had with the Arri Alexa was it does really well in low light. And so we did not have as much budget for our lighting equipment.
That's a good point.
So it actually, you can't really tell when you watch the film. You wouldn't know that we had mostly practicals. We did rent lighting. Actually, shout out to Lightbulb Grip and Rentals in New York City. The humans that work there are like absolutely the best. But when we had to reschedule because of the hurricane and canceling things, they actually gifted us the lighting equipment and the package that we had, because it was like a re-rental of the same package. And they gave it to us. They contributed to our project in that way. Because they were just like, man, like, we feel you, like, that's so hard. So they were just also filmmakers who love filmmaking, and they really got our back. So anyway, yeah.
Is there anything that's awesome. Is there anything you wish you would have had? You can never look backwards. Hindsight's always 20/20. Is there anything you wish you would have done that you didn't do that you'll do next time?
I think something that I've learned is just if I'm going to commit to doing a project, I'm already so passionate about the story and the why anyway, if I'm going that hard into it. But then I just, for myself, would need to believe in myself and go, what you are making is of value. So anyone else that you're bringing on this team is also fortunate to get to work with you. So I think I would sometimes come at everybody like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky that anyone will work with me, which it undercuts the value of what I bring and what I make and how hard I work. And it just means that I made some decisions that I think I would make differently.
Anything specific that stands out?
I think it's just knowing, hey, if you're not immediately attracted to my script and my story, I'm not going to come at you like I'm lucky to work with you. If you're not interested, then we're done, right? Because I am a gift. What I am creating is a gift, and you're fucking lucky to work with me. And I think this process,
you're also you're providing opportunity.
Yeah, has helped me to feel that and know that. And yeah, I think it just is a difference in the way that you initially collaborate with people, the boundaries that you set, the expectations. because I've done this now, I understand what all the jobs are, what all the jobs should be, what expectations I have for people in terms of the amount of labor they do, what they do, how they do it. And so I think I'm now in a position to when I hire people, to be very clear about my expectations so that I can also work towards accountability. So if someone's not doing what it is that I think they should be doing, how do I communicate that clearly? And how do we come to an agreement about either meeting the level of expectation or then just we go different ways, and that's okay too. But I'm a person that has continued to take on. It's like I hire someone and then it's like I'm working for them and paying them to do not this is only a few experiences. We have a 70-person team and
I
I
mean,
maybe 3 people I've had this experience with, but I hold myself accountable because it is a dynamic I set up. It's interesting when you're managing people and you're trying to
yeah.
manage them.
And you don't know on your next chapter, your next project, like you've been through the fire, right?
Yeah.
You've seen the war. So you know the battles that are coming up, right?
Yeah.
It's but when you started on Angry Mom, you're like, you've never been to this war before. You've never seen these battles before. And so you're like on shaky ground. You're like, okay, and you're trying to figure it out. Okay. Yeah. You want to work? Yeah. Yeah. Now you're like, look, I know how to reach out. I know how to solve the problem. This is the project. This is how we're going to do it. You interested? Great. And
There's a lot of really talented people out
yeah.
there.
And you know how to navigate.
Oh, right fit. I wish I could actually, my younger artist, I wish I had this mantra when I was younger. Like everything always works out for me. Even when somebody is rejecting you or saying no, or it's like, actually, this is a gift. It may not look like it or feel like it in the moment, but that
Oh,
thing that you really think you want that doesn't work out ends up being a gift because then you're available for this other thing that's an even better fit for you.
it
And some
really is
people
true.
aren't your people, and it's okay. Like I just, as a young
Okay.
artist, think I made it about my own failure, my own not enoughness. And I was constantly working to try to be a better actor, to be smarter, to work like so much labor instead of just like trusting, like you are enough. You're this precious, beautiful little gift, and other people are too. And some of them are going to be your people, and some of them are. And if they're not, whew, we don't have to take it personally. We can just move on, just keep
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah. No, cutting bait right off the bat is definitely a lesson that I think I've taken away. Some other
Yeah.
lessons that I've taken away, but yeah.
And all love for those other people too, because you're just not their people and they're not your people. And that's not even a reflection of either of your worth on the planet, right? You're just some people have a similar work ethic, care about similar topics and themes. And so rather than me trying to adjust myself to someone else's liking. And I think it's funny because this is so much about what the story is about, right? You have this people pleasing mom who is deeply angry because she doesn't listen to her anger. She doesn't have good boundaries. She's more worried about everyone else than what she actually needs. And so that's creating an anger inside of her. And she needs to learn to listen to her boundaries, to speak up and use her voice. And in some of the ways that we're looking at it in the series, it's funny and we're laughing at it, but there's more serious. And that's also in this series. There's more serious layers to why that's important. Yeah, it's interesting. The thing I wrote was the thing I needed to live out and learn in life.
yeah, no, it's like imitates art, imitates life, life imitates art.
Yeah.
Uh, what's your plan with it now? So you're on the film circuit with it right now, which is fun and exciting. I didn't go too heavy in the film circuit. I was always focused right off to get it out there in distribution, but I just towards the end, actually recently I started doing the film festival circuit, but I stopped, and mostly because I submitted to one, I had some success, then I submitted to another one, and then people were asking me to submit it, but I think I'm done with the film festival circuit. But you're on that route right now.
Yeah.
You like it? Are you enjoying it? You plan to keep going it? Because we both know Karis, and
Yes. Whew. Powerhouse, right?
I think right now she's going to go to Peru. She's going to be on the board of Peru. I once asked her, like, how many film festivals are you going to do? So it sounds like she's going to do forever because she's been doing them for a long time. But
She's
what's
got
your,
multiple seasons of her series as well. So yeah, she started, I think, with a few episodes, but kept adding in, has more than one season. So I
oh,
guess
she does now. Okay.
yeah, I think it makes sense for her to go back to the festival circuit with new content, and or if she's going as a jury or judge member, that's because yeah, she enjoys the
If
people
I,
socializing. So I would say it's interesting because some of the festivals that I've gone to, people are like, "Oh, don't go to that. You're wasting your time. It's not a big deal." And people pay lip service to other festivals that they're like, "This one is so prestigious and exciting." And my personal experience has been some of the tinier ones that are not prestigious have really great community. And you're like big fish, little pond. But I have still learned a lot from the people from watching projects and have
And
actually
you,
made some really useful industry connections at the smaller festivals.
yeah.
And like right now I'm at Holly Shorts, which is Oscar qualifying. It's very prestigious. Everyone is super excited to be here. But I think it's easy to get lost in this.
Oh, is that why you're in LA?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm checking out of an Airbnb now. This is me like all packed and ready by the door. Yeah, so it's interesting. Like the thing, I was at Dances with Films, which I just cannot say enough good things about that particular film festival because they build community. They give you so much information. They connect you with the other filmmakers. So
Yeah.
things the festival have offered me is our social media numbers are growing. We have press around the project, both reviews, doing some podcasts, like talking to people about what I'm making so that there's some marketing and social proof, which I have a beautiful website that I built myself,
Did you,
brown.com.
did you use
Uh,
Squarespace?
no, actually, I use Wix because Squarespace is tricky for me personally. I am not a designer, but I think I did a pretty good job. People could check it
Yeah.
out. And so I would say it's helped me get press. It's good for social proof. You have laurels. We've won 8 awards now.
That's great.
It gave me the opportunity to have screenings. We did 2 festivals in New York and we sold out our blocks both times. So that gave people that supported the project an opportunity to come out and see what we had made. It's basically giving the people that I hired were not paid a lot in money. And so my interest is in paying them in credit and whatever prestige they can get after the fact, meaning they get to win some awards. There's
Yeah.
some press they can reference that this is a credit that's meaningful to
Yeah,
them.
they're
That
part of the
those
project.
festivals do. Yeah, that help you get. But I'm interested in what you've done, which is you've already got it distributed. Did you go through like Film Hub or how did you get it on all the platforms that you're on?
So I was so focused on getting distribution because I was so nervous that I was not going to get distribution. The first thing I did is right off the bat, I put it on Vimeo on demand.
Okay.
I did that, and that's pretty easy. And I can talk with you about that later on if you want that info. And then I created a Vimeo OTT site, and then I worked with a company called Bitmax, and I got distribution. And I can explain that to you. But I was just really focused. And as you go through distribution, different platforms, the challenging with that is that everyone has different formats for their distribution. And that becomes, so if you're not organized, I think the best advice I can give filmmakers is stay super organized, create folders for each platform, each festival, everything, even from your posters to
Drive is your friend. Yes.
yeah, thumbnail, everything. Even your thumbnails are different. Your thumbnails
I
go
should do a
different.
webinar on my Google Drive. It's actually so masterful. I am so impressed with myself because yes, it's so much. It's so much. Like it would blow your mind to see how many files. Like there must be at least 50 buckets, and then all the files are in them. So yeah,
No, yeah. And then I got it on Amazon. When Amazon's getting a little bit tougher to get it on, I just painstakingly read web pages about how to get your stuff on Amazon. And I got it right up on Amazon. Now there's a plus and minus with that, because if you get distribution, right, if someone says, hey, I'm really interested. So every direction you go in has a double-edged sword, every direction. So if you go my route, it's out there, it's on Amazon, it's on Apple, it's on Google Play, it's on all these platforms, which is fun, right? Because now your film is out there and you can sell it, you can promote it, and you can earn some money from it. The downside of that is if you meet a distributor, they're going to be like, we want you to take it down because we want to sell it. And you're like, do you have any idea how much fucking work I've done to get this thing up? It's almost a production. It really is. It's almost another production, getting these things up on these platforms. Bitmax is not so hard, but they're good. And they got great customer service. They're what they're called an aggregator. They're called aggregators, and they're a little bit different than sales distribution. There's 2 guys right now who want me to pull it off all the platforms, and they want to distribute it for me. But I'm just not. I have 50 reviews on Amazon. It's got 4.5 stars. I'm just like, I don't want to do it. I just don't. Why not? But then you risk the gamble of them being able to package it with something and sell it. And in distribution, depending who the distributor, so the distributors have classes, right? So if Cinemax or HBO or Showtime decides to buy it and they put it on all these different platforms, Apple, Google, they're going to elevate that platform completely different than if Mel House puts it on Apple. And it's going to change the whole thing, right? But you take that risk But then you also take the risk of just sitting there and never, ever it getting picked up.
Yeah.
Now, I saw your project as a producer, because you always think as a producer,
Yeah.
I thought this could be a really interesting thing to keep adding seasons to it, right? What her journey is. She had a bad audition this journey. Who knows what the next journey is? Maybe she's going through a divorce, or who knows what it is. There's so many different journeys. Maybe she gets hired, or maybe you can go in so many different directions, comedy, drama. Maybe this time it stays as a comedy, because it is a comedy, right? It's got a serious tone, but
For comedy. It
yeah,
starts off with broad physical comedy, and we
yeah,
did whimsical animation in the beginning. But you probably noticed the animation starts to creep away as you get deeper in and as the content starts to get a little bit
yeah,
darker. And part of that is because of the theme. Like, women's anger is not palatable for people in general. So we had to wrap it up in a way that's going to make it accessible. And that's what comedy does. Like, it lets us talk about the hard, icky things that we're like, why is this so hard? Or why is it so uncomfortable?
But my,
Let me make it funny.
yeah, but my thought when I thought is, I wouldn't go distribution yet, because you're so fresh out of the box and you're still doing the film circuit. And if you do that film circuit, you'll meet some distributors, and by not having it on these platforms,
Yeah.
it's going to be easier for you to go, yeah, let's talk business. How do you want to package this? Do you want to always work on commission first? Don't ever get a distributor to say, pay me and then I'll sell it.
No, it's not happening. Yeah. Because,
They're
and I think the
they're
other
out,
thing,
they're out there and they come to you,
yeah,
and they sell you a really good deal, and they make you feel
feel
really good.
like it. Yeah.
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 Yeah. You're
Okay.
like, no, I'm not going to do it. And they know what they're doing, because they know you're vulnerable as a filmmaker. They know you want to get
Yeah.
it up. They know
What my thing? What love my thing? Yeah.
yeah, they know you're,
Happy is a good thing.
yeah, you're looking for the brass ring. And so they know what to say. Look, this is a great project. I can easily put this on HBO or HBO Shorts. This can be on Sundance Shorts. You're like, "Mm-mm." So I think it's $5,000. It covers my time, but don't do it.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
don't,
Thank you for that. Yeah. If somebody starts waving Sundance and HBO, you get a little stupid. You're like,
I
"Oh."
don't, you
Think
get,
for me, and actually part of the reason I'm also out in LA was I had a reading last Friday night of a pilot that I've written that's based on Hot Angry Moms. So it's the hour-long version of where one way that the story could go. And I had an incredible, I am a voice teacher, a voice coach. I've been certified in something called Fitzmaurice Voice Work. And there was a
yeah,
conference called Freedom and Focus for Fitzmaurice voice teachers. And I pitched it to them. Can I bring this story? And because it's about the main character is a voice coach. So we focus on that in the next pilot, that part of it. Because the note that I got when people were looking at my script initially was, no one wants to see a story about an actor. We don't care about actors. We don't want to hear, we don't want to follow that. Everybody does that.
yeah,
Great. But can I just say it's hitting so hard in festivals right now? Because I have this monologue towards the end where my character is raging. It's the viral video that is where she loses her mind. But what she says is why SAG-AFTRA actors are striking. She says, I just want to do what I love and be treated with a little bit of respect. What I do has value. I have value. Is that so much to ask? And it, to me, is the core of what Mel House actually wants on the planet, is just to do this work that I love, that I've trained, that I spent decades doing, just earn
yeah,
enough money to live. And that's why we're out striking. And actually, I think we do fucking care about actors. And I think she's a fantastic story character. People are getting really great reviews because I think on this surface, people are like, oh, another story about an actor. But that's because we have fucked up ideas about the actors because they're so devalued, particularly out here in Los Angeles, because there are so many. We're not being like, oh, these are artists. These are the reason why you have the face on the screen. This is why I had to pay my actors, because I was like, we don't have a story without your face. So, and without your soul and your breath and your heart and your humor. So anyway, SAG-AFTRA strike plug. But the voice conference was an opportunity for me to share the work in progress where I'm going. And so something coming back to my original point was just, I am seeking to find the right online home for the content that I've currently created, but I see it as a work sample and proof of concept for what else I can keep making. So with the hour-long pilot that I have, I'm going to submit to some of the labs, and then I have the web series as a proof of concept, just as a work sample to be like, oh, what can she make? You
yeah.
know?
What's the advice there for anybody listening to this, especially if you're young? And then I'll ask you that question is, and I share this with young actors who reach out to me all the time. I always say it's so much easier to sell content than it is to sell an idea. And once you have content, you can talk to someone at a party, or you can talk to someone at a film festival or at a networking event. And so I have an idea, I have a film, I have a project, and this is the concept of it. They're like, what can you show me anything? I can actually. And you can send them the links and you follow up with them compared to, I have this idea of a mom getting frustrated. And it's just because no one sees your idea except you. No one does.
Yeah.
And to get other people, especially in our business, it's a subjective art, to see our vision is really difficult. It happens, but it's really difficult. And it's so much easier to sell content when you have a project. So I always tell younger actors, just grab your phone. There was a guy who reached out to me, bless his heart, he wants to raise $84 million. And I'm sure you've been in the business a long time. So people think because you're a working actor that I can pick up Steven, who are not in the business, that you can call Steven Spielberg and say, hey, they think you're really connected. And he was like, I saw you work with, he's naming all these stars out. He saw my demo reel. And I was like, yeah, I've worked with him too, but doesn't mean I can call him. And he had this idea.
BFFs, yeah.
Yeah. And I said, look, my best advice for you is just grab your phone and shoot it. Write the script, write a trailer, write like a 10-minute film and just shoot it and have a concept that you can show someone. And you can spend a lot of money on a concept, make it look really good. Again, going back to the iPhone conversation, you have content that you can talk about. Whereas you're bringing up $84 million, and two, you have a concept that no one understands. Right. And so like, shoot with stars, see where you land, man. But so just wrapping up. So let me ask you, what advice would you give? So let's see a girl or a younger actor sees your project, says, I want to do something like that. What would be the advice that you would give them?
Absolutely do it. First have to greenlight yourself. I would say, make sure it's a story you want to tell. If you have for why you want to tell the story, it is a lot easier to find other people that will want to work with you because there will be shared whys. Some people will just want to make art to be making art. But I think if there's a common theme or purpose, that's really important. So write the thing that you have to, the story you have to tell, whatever it is. And even if no one else seems to be, like initially I was told, oh, don't make it about an actor. But I had to make that story because for me, theater is her spiritual hook. And there's a thing for the series that I want where all these different characters have different spiritual hooks. And that's part of the diversity of the series and the world. And that was something I couldn't just cut out because somebody says it's not commercially relevant. So I had to make it my way first. So I would say find your why, write the story, collaborate with other artists. I think I spent so much time doing readings for people, showing up at other people's events, showing up for their screenings, showing up for their plays. And I think that's why when I crowdfunded, there was such overwhelming support. Because for years, I have shown up for everyone else's things and I've collaborated with them and I've built community and I've gotten better at my craft. But also don't wait. Don't worry about making it perfect.
No, that's the best advice. That's the best advice. Just start. The hardest part is starting. It really is. If you could just put paper to pen or keyboard, finger to keyboard, just get it out there. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And that's a big lesson there for younger people or people who want to create their own project. Just start. And I read a great book. It's called the 1%. Have you ever heard of it? It talks about that extraordinary success in life doesn't come from extraordinary things. It comes from consistent, minimal,
tiny habit.
Yeah, tiny habits. It's just little. It's just improving 1%. So if you write a sentence, that's it. That's good enough. Tomorrow, write another sentence. Tomorrow, the day after that, write another sentence. And before you know it, you have a scene. And then you stay on that. And then next thing you know, you have your project. And a lot of times we get caught, and I'm just as guilty as that as anyone is like, it's got to be perfect. Oh, this is horrible, especially when you read your own stuff. Oh, I'm not a writer. What am I doing? But it's just starting and just doing little by little every single day. And eventually you get to that end goal and you wonder how you did it. And it's just through minimal gains, 1% improving. It's like compound interest, right? If you just do 1% every day, it compounds on you and it compounds on you. Now, the trick is to start and to do the 1%, not to give up on it, and to always open that file up, open Final Cut, Final Draft, and write your story, like you said, and just to do it and make sure that so many people out there they talk themselves out before they even get started, especially actors. And when I look back on creating my play, The American Soldier, and the projects that I have, I don't know how I got there, but the greatest thing I ever did was write that play. And you will see this as you go through your journey as a creator and a producer with Hot Angry Mom. Because what's going to happen, and it always happens, doors are going to open for you. Then they may not be the doors that you're looking for, but doors will open for you. And you'll be like, wow, that all started from Hot Angry Mom. And you don't know what the ping pong journey is. It goes from here and then there, and you go 90 degrees that direction, and then you come back this direction. But it will open doors. And it all comes from that moment where you said, you know what, I'm going to write this project out. I'm going to write this film out. So it's really, it's good advice that you give. And it's definitely something that I would second, is start and just have fun with it. Collaborate with people, put it out there too, right?
I filmed 15 years ago, and now that person was my director. I worked on her film. She's directing my project, and she's amazing. She's really talented, super smart, should be working all the time. Women need to give ourselves more permission, more confidence to go out, fuck shit up. Don't worry about getting it perfect. Keep learning by trying. Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, it's never.
I think we take a lot of classes and try to get it right before we start. We don't give ourselves the permission to be as messy, to just really go for it. But like you said, the connections are indirect and they're always surprising. But already from Hot Angry Mom, I've had people watch it. And then from having seen my performance, which isn't my favorite performance of all the work that I've done, but people are like, oh, it's so good, that I've already had offers for people that are interested in working with me on other projects that are
There you go.
lined up into next year. And so it's okay, cool. And who knows what else.
And I was on a podcast recently as a guest, and they said, what advice would you give someone who wants to get into the acting business? And I told them, if I could go back 25 years, when I first came to New York in 2000, it would be do your own stuff.
Yes. Less
Right.
of those nasty classes and paying other people all the money for meetings, and more of the make your own art. Because
Yeah.
as a creator, you have something of value. You're bringing people together. Sometimes you're able to pay people. You're providing opportunity.
You're learning.
By doing and learning.
I
Yeah.
mean, tell me what you did with Hot Angry Mom. It's not the best film school you could have ever fucking taken.
Oh my gosh, it is.
I
Absolutely.
mean, it is film school boot camp. It is how you learn. You could have
Yeah.
spent all that money and gone to NYU film school, and nothing wrong with it. People went that direction, but you're not going to learn how to produce a film until you put yourself into that frying pan and produce a film. That's where you really get your scars and your scar tissue.
Absolutely.
So listen, where can people connect with you? Where can they find you? How can they reach out to you? And if they want to watch Hot Angry Mom, can they, and where can they?
Great. So if you go to www.hotangrymom.com, you will see our trailer. You'll see all about the project, and we will be listing and are listing wherever we're currently screening. Sometimes it is online as part of a festival. So we're at Holly Shorts in Los Angeles at the TCL Chinese Theaters this week, playing live, but we're also on something called BitPix, where you can see it online for a limited time. We're going to be at the Mom Film Festival, which is an online festival based in New York. We're going to Italy and New
Are you going to go?
And I can't go to Italy because I'm in this play. So I'm actually missing the New Jersey festival as well, though my team will go. We're going to Minnesota. Basically, there's a bunch of festivals that we're going to for the rest of the year. We're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, at Hot Angry Mom. We're also on Threads. We're trying that. We're not sure about Twitter. We're on Twitter, but X, whatever it is. I'm never good at that platform. And then what else? I am melhouse.com. So that's me as an actor, as a voice coach, and as a creator.
At Mel House, right?
MELHOUSE, melhouse.com, which has a larger body of my work and ways to reach out to me.
What's your IG handle?
At Mel House NYC, MELHOUSE NYC.
Is there another Mel House out there? Is that why you had to do NYC?
There is. He's a filmmaker. He's brilliant. We became friends during my crowdfunding campaign. He works out in Austin. He's like a famous, pretty well-known horror filmmaker. So sometimes people have met me and they've been excited because they're like, "You're Mel House?" And I'm like, I am. Why are you so excited to meet me? What have I done? And then I'm unfortunately often not the person they are so excited to meet. So we have a good laugh. But yeah, he and I became friends, and there's a whole collective of Mel Houses all over the place. We're slowly becoming friends. His wife is also Mel House because her name is Melanie. She married him. So yeah, there's lots of laughs. But you should check out his work. He's also super dope. So we compete on IMDb and Google for
That's
like,
funny.
so am I a man with a hairy beard or am I a blonde lady from New York City?
Listen, we go back a long way, and it's really good seeing you. It's great seeing you. You make me sad seeing you because I think about the nostalgia of, I think when we were cutting our teeth in New York in the early 2000s, we were so blessed because I shared this also recently. I said, it was expensive and it was hard, but there was so much opportunity to get involved as an actor. There were so many classes you could take, and there's so many studios you could attend, and you would meet, who are you studying with? Where's he at? And is he good? And you would take so many different classes, and it was really an exciting time. And maybe I'm getting older now. I don't know how younger actors do it because it's just so much difficult now, so much more expensive, so much challenging with all the other challenges. And so anyway, I just remember really you bring fond memories, but old fond memories back. And now that you look old, I'm old, and I remember
Middle lifetime, yeah.
yeah, I don't know, but I'm
My
always,
son's turning 21 this week.
I know. And I remember very clearly because I didn't have, my son's 14 now, but when we studied, don't think my first was born. And I remember you telling me, I think we were sitting in class, I go, yeah, I have a baby. I have a boy. I'm like, you have a boy? And I think he was like 4, 5 or 6. And I think we went to I think you brought him with your husband. And I think Carl, I think at the end of class, we all went out for beers or something. And I met him, but he was a baby. He was a boy. He was a baby boy. And
Yeah. Cool thing. So when we screen this Wednesday night at 10 p.m., I actually went into labor with him 21 years ago at that time.
oh, wow, that's so
I
crazy.
call it like a kismety in the stars like thing. Now, mind you, he wasn't born until the 17th because he had to torture me for 2 days before he finally came out. But yeah, I think it's cool because it is part of the iteration. It's part of what's under the story is the challenges with motherhood and my anger in female things and actor things. And so I just love that there is this birth of this thing happening because I was very scared when I was 24 when I had him. I gave up a spot in an MFA program because I couldn't do both at the time. And I really was afraid that is this a choice between
Yeah,
this
I know.
and my career? And that was the most terrifying thing ever to think I might give up what I actually want and love the most, like for my soul and my dream to take care of this other person. And as parents, we often make so many sacrifices to take care of these little people, and we can lose ourselves, and that can be frustrating and heartbreaking. So I guess if anything, I am a hope story because 21 years later, my son is the most beautiful, awesome best friend.
You wouldn't change it for the world, would you?
But I'm also really grateful to go, okay, and I'm still making art. And
Yeah.
I'm beginning to make a living-ish as much as you can as a working actor in New York. But I've worked on 1 TV show, 3 films, and I'm about to go do a play this year. So I'm working. I'm working it.
You're
And so
excited.
it is possible, but only with a lot of persistence, perseverance. And you have to love it. You have to love it, and your soul needs to do it.
Yeah, no, if you don't get in this business famous, do not do that. Get in because you love the art. Tim Phillips, I don't know if you ever heard of Tim Phillips. He's a great director. He teaches out of Atlanta now, but he said, unfortunately, we're born with this itch in us as artists, as actors. And as much as you would like to do something else, you ain't doing anything else because this is all you want to do. And this is what your soul is destined to do. And when you wake up in the morning, this is what you do. And when you go to bed, this is what you do. And that's just the way it is. Whether you believe in God, a higher power, that they bless certain souls to do certain things. And I think as artists, when we're people like me and you who've been committed for a long time, we really don't have a choice. We
No.
really don't have a choice. So listen, I'm going to wrap up now, but it was a pleasure seeing you again, Mel. And everybody can go to melhouse.com. Oh, no, sorry, hotangrymom.com. Then Mel House is on Mel House NYC on Instagram, and then melhouse.com
.com is right for a website. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.
Having me. Great to see your face.
You too.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and found it informative in some way. And if you did, I appreciate a like, a good review. And as always, keep believing, keep working, and always keep dreaming.